Hey, howdy, and welcome all to the Big and Bright podcast. My name is Nick. This here next to me is James.
Howdy.
You got your haircut. You look good, man.
What are you doing?
Jealous. I'm jealous.
What are you doing?
You gotta keep the Rona safe here in my quarters. So I don't want you to get the Rona. So I'm wearing this for
get it again.
I'm wearing this for your protection, James. For your protection. You're not vaccinated, so I don't want you to get sick. So I'm gonna wear this mask.
Whoa, I identify as vaccinated. I've made that very clear. Therefore, I am vaccinated. I've gotten the Rona, so I have at least a few months before I can get it again.
Well, James, that's all fake news. You need to follow the science, and you should be wearing a mask like me, especially. Right? This is a sign that I am a good person. So
no, it's not. Sign that you're crazy.
Now, I do still have the coronavirus. Well, I mean, I don't know. That's the thing is I haven't had a test or anything like that. It's been several days, right? And I feel just fine. I'm a little overtired, got a scratchy throat, a little bit of a scratchy throat, but I feel just fine. But I can't come out of my room for like another 4 or 5 days. And James is already done with his quarantine, so he's out getting his hair cut, mask free, all that good stuff. But I'm still here. I'm still stuck. I'm still stuck in this little cell that I have called my bedroom, right? My boudoir. So welcome again to my boudoir, everybody. It's been a little bit. We've been working remotely. It's been kind of tough to get these stories put together when we're working remotely, but we're making it happen for you, the people. And there is a lot to talk about. We actually are going to bring back the 3 hot takes today, so that's going to be fun, right? We got at least 3 stories that are Texas related that we're going to talk about that you're going to see on a national scale. But credit to James for getting this stuff out, because James has actually been able to go out and do the work, be the boots on the ground, while I've had to kind of sit here in my cave and run things on my computer. So props to him. That being said, Texas is back in the news, man. We're back doing stuff. Had a super slow week last week, but we are back in the news this week.
They can't leave us alone, Nick.
They can't leave us alone, man. Can't even work, man. You look good. I like the haircut. I really do, and I'm jealous because I look like a freaking scraggly ragamuffin. Because
your wife just give you like a damp rag. It's like you're not showering. You can use this.
No, I have a shower. So that's the good thing is like we've got the master bedroom with the master bath. So I've got my own shower and stuff like that. I'm growing out my prison beard though, and I'm growing this out because I'm not going to shave it until I'm free. Right. And it really is like a prison cell. Literally there's a door right by there's a chair right by the door. My wife leaves me food like it's a drop box and just knocks on the door and lets me come pick it up.
Boom.
But yeah, exactly. That's my life right now. Man.
She's installed like a hotel lock. So if you actually do try to open, it's like, nope, that slide's not going to let you go, buddy. Get back in your room.
But that's life. I mean, that's life with Rona right now. Is the worst part about it is not even anything to do with the sickness. The worst part about it is the fact that you can't leave your room because the CDC tells you not to. Which is, I don't know if people are going to get really mad. Oh, Nick, don't say the coronavirus isn't that bad. Listen, I mean, there was a couple of rough days, maybe one rough day. It was a pretty bad fever, but other than that, man, the worst part about this is just not being able to see my family.
My version wasn't too bad.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it really, it's I don't want to say we're over exaggerating because certainly a lot of people have died from this, but it's just, for me, it was just nothing, And I mean, obviously if you have people in your life that have died from it, that's an absolute tragedy. But to say that COVID is a death sentence, or that you should be terrified of COVID like it's a death sentence, you probably need to check that. But let's talk about Texas, friends. Let's talk initially about, speaking of tragedies, let's go from one tragedy, which is the death of people from COVID, to another tragedy, which is this school shooting that we saw in Arlington at Timberview High School. James, there's a lot going on here. Nobody's died so far. There is one person in critical condition, but we don't have any dead people. What do you got?
Well, this is according to Star Telegram. local NBC, DFW news articles. On October 6th, which was Wednesday, an 18-year-old black male allegedly shot up a school in Mansfield, like you said, to Riverview High School. I'm not going to name him, even though he doesn't really meet the mass shooter type of argument, which I'll get to later. The articles have the source. Feel free to read yourself. We share them for that benefit. I'm going to leave it there. According to the sources, though, 4 people were shot. 1, a female who suffered a small abrasion, seems to be fine. 2,
seems like she was just grazed.
Yeah. 2, a 15-year-old who is the main target, is in critical condition, also may face charges due to the fight that is how this all occurred, which I'll get to later. 3, a 25-year-old male who's in good condition. And 4, adult female, don't have any idea why it doesn't have an age, but she's likely a teacher because since no age was given, but she was also pregnant and released at the scene. I think for a factor, this woman's a bad A because she's able to be all this and then say like, yeah, I'm just going to walk it off.
Oh my gosh. So this story is sad, right? This is obviously not something that you want to see happening in Texas, but I'd like to talk a little bit more about the way that the media has covered this, because the media coverage of this has been all over the place, right? And they were boots on the ground, cameras ready to go. Everybody wanted to know about this shooter. A lot of people were too quick to report, and they were misreporting. They were reporting that people had died, and they were reporting that this was that this was just a chaotic situation. And
and the gun argument.
Yeah, they were going for it.
Oh, the dude's black. Never mind.
And then it got real quiet real fast. That's the thing. It's like they were ready. You could see they had it. They knew exactly the route they were going with this. And I'm still curious. as to why they're not going with the gun argument. You know what I mean?
I think we know why.
Well, I do, but okay. We understand, and we're just going to go ahead and say this shooter is black. Okay. And there is a real issue that we can talk about with regard to the narrative that the media would like to push as far as black shooters versus white shooters and how they're treated differently, because this guy got off a lot better than some other individuals who shot people, specifically white people. Right. He's I think he's already out of jail, isn't he? Right. He's already out of jail.
He's been released, but it was on bail.
He's already been released on bail. Right. This is clearly.
When was he released? The next day.
The next day. Yeah. He was taken out the next day.
For only $75,000.
Well, and the thing is, he surrendered himself. Right. It's not like they had to go in and get him. He surrendered himself. And he's out on bail, right? So yeah, this is unfortunate that this person who shot 4 people is out on out on bail. But that is the way the legal system works, and you just have to kind of have to shift this and think, okay, if this had been a white kid, what would the narrative be looking like, right?
The narrative would be worse, but they may still have been released the same way.
Mm-hmm.
But they were the way I know it kind of got spun a lot because all of a sudden there was given this reasoning and this is what happened. We don't justify, but this is what happened. Apparently he was bullied at school for wearing nice clothing and driving a nice car.
Yeah.
All right. And the shooting happened because of a fight between a 15-year-old and the alleged shooter. Apparently there's a Facebook video of it. I'm not going to post that for our sources. If you want to find that, have at it. But the weird part is all this is given is like he was bullied. According to a Facebook post, he was recently ambushed by a group of young males outside of the school, stripped of his clothing in front of a crowd of onlookers and robbed of his money and possessions. They state they reported the incident, but I can't imagine that nothing was done. It's a really specific incident to not have reported, especially if onlookers are seeing this, but whatever. Yeah. But a gun was in the dude's backpack.
Yeah.
He came ready to shoot.
He did. He came ready to shoot. And he was...
as I said, Nick, he's only 18.
Yeah.
Just a simple little Google search to ATF. Mm-hmm. You have to be 21 to purchase a handgun.
Yeah.
So how'd this dude get a handgun?
probably got it from his parents' house, right? I mean,
He lives with his grandmother, but yet his parents came quick to defend him. But
Yeah.
like, why is he living with his grandmother? Where were you? Why all of a sudden now?
Yeah. Well, it's this odd concept. I mean, he lives with his grandmother. His part of his trauma, part of the reason why he feared for his life is because his father had been beaten to death. Right? There's a lot of kind of seemingly trauma that goes around this kid's life, and so there's a lot of questions about why aren't you living with your parents? How did you get a gun? What's the situation here? And to be fair, we should be thinking about these things when we start talking about shooters and mass shooters. We should have that angle, but I feel like if we were saying a similar thing about a kid of another skin color, then there would be a pretty big difference in how the media would portray this, right? That there would be no excuse. This is just angry white rage or whatever it is. But here, and especially because this happened in Texas, which is why I'm super curious about the fact that they still didn't go the gun route, right? Because that seems to be the media's MR, which is you have a shooting. Is this a white person? Yes, let's talk about white supremacy. Okay. Is it not a white person? No. Okay. We can still talk about guns. And they haven't really pivoted to the gun thing yet, which I'm curious as to why, because you figured in Texas that this would be the place where you do that, right? This would be the place where you push the gun narrative and you start talking about how all of this is, all this is
the
not
race.
okay.
The race narrative is usually played the easiest one because, come on, but they don't talk about really the victims. Like, what color are they? That would always be a big deal, especially if it was a white guy shooting a black guy.
Yeah.
Well, they also don't talk about, who robbed him of his stuff that you claim happened, but right beforehand when he got stripped and was basically in his boxers or underwear without his money and phone.
Mm-hmm.
What color were they? Seems like a huge point that I would like to know. You're not mentioning it. My guess is because they're the same color as him. So that you're just losing all these usual check boxes. And I think that's why they're kind of like, let's not talk a lot about this, because if we do, they start magnifying like, well, what was the true reason? No, we're not talking about it. Just to say he's bullied and move on.
Yeah.
Because it's just too weird. And I mean,
and they also really don't like the words mass shooting, right?
No, they don't.
Mass shooting. It's certainly not a mass homicide, but 4 people were shot. I don't know how you cannot call that a mass shooting.
Well, according to FBI, because they're the reason how this media narrative gets always thrown, they only have defined active shooter, which is commonly known by the media as mass shooter. However, usually people die. No one died here. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
The lawyer did a press brief when he was released saying like this has been a false narrative. And I think she's right, because according to FBI, it's never been defined. And FBI says with active shooter, it only includes 4 or more persons who are killed. But they have never actually defined, like I've said, mass shooter, despite what you may hear.
Yeah.
So we'll offer that article for you as well. And the condition of release was like wear an ankle monitor, house arrest, fine, whatever.
Ankle monitor?
Yeah.
This has got to be at least 3 counts of aggravated assault.
It is.
Yeah, it's got to be. It's got to be at least 3 counts of aggravated assault. You're gonna get off on an ankle monitor. The kid's 18. Take him to jail.
House arrest.
Take him to jail. Take him to jail arrest. Right to jail.
And he was in jail.
I know.
75K got him out of jail.
Good gracious. I don't know who posted that bond.
His parents.
Yeah. Well, I imagine so.
What the allegation was, he was getting bullied because he wore nice clothing. So goes to say that maybe they have enough wealth to throw that in there.
And again, I want to understand something, right? And this isn't whataboutism, because there are comparable things here. And you look at somebody like Kyle Rittenhouse, you know what his bail is?
A lot.
It's $2 million. It's over $2 million, right? Whereas this guy,
he went to a riot. The argument is he went to a riot with the riot full. He actively sought out someone, then retreated after he sought someone out. That's at least the argument being thrown out there.
What's it called? Kyle Rittenhouse shot a known pedophile who was actively trying to shoot at him. Okay. This guy shot 4 people, not necessarily indiscriminately, but shot 4 people. One of them was a teacher.
Yeah,
right?
the teacher was trying to actually stop him, and when he's pulling out the gun from the backpack, that's how he got shot.
Okay, but I mean, still, you figure that one guy gets and I understand that it's a big deal, and Rittenhouse, if Rittenhouse got off, then, cities would probably be on fire right now. I understand that there's a political deal behind this, but at the same time, there's a big discrepancy between these people, and it really cuts against the narrative of of that we treat white people better than black people in the justice system. And I really want to encourage people, especially people that live in Texas and live in that area. And by the way, for the people that go to Timberview High School, my heart goes out to you. It's got to be a really stressful time for you guys right now. But I want you guys to remember this, right? Because when that narrative pops up again and people say, "What would this have been like if it had been a black kid?" We now have a case. We can say, "Look, this is what it's like. It's really about behavior, right? This kid is out today because his parents posted bail, and I can't stress this enough. He turned himself in peacefully." Right. That's the reason why this kid isn't dead currently. And so this notion that just because someone's an active shooter, if they're black, that we have to go after them and we have to put them down that way as a matter of skin color, is just not the case. Right. And I think that this case proves it.
Dude made a huge mistake, but yeah, when you turn yourself in, they're like, okay, hands on your head. Mm-hmm. Okay, we got you. That's fine. It's fine. Yeah. Yeah. But whatever. Let's move on. That's
true. Let's move on. We talked about attempted murder. Let's talk about actual successful murder. Right.
Number 2.
Yeah. Let's talk about abortion, friends. What's going on with abortion law, James?
Texas can't be left alone because, heaven forbid we make our own decisions. According to AP News and USA Today, federal judge Robert Pittman on Wednesday, same day as the shooting, by the way, ordered to suspend most restrictive, as they call it, abortion law. Some would say most sane and humane law, but whatever. Mm-hmm. In case you don't remember, the Senate bill that went through was Senate Bill 8, commonly known as the Heartbeat Bill. This lawsuit was brought by the Biden or the they administration, and they said restrictions were in defiance of U.S. Constitution. Where is it written? Just show
go back and look at the Roe v. Wade ruling.
Just show me where it's written in there anywhere. Just show me the one.
This is interesting. I'm going to stop you here for just a second. Again, semantics is everything, right? But it seems to me like every time somebody talks about something that is in violation of a Supreme Court case, they say it's in violation of the Constitution. What's the logic there?
Due to Marbury versus Madison, which is a really crappy ruling way back when, but I think it's 1803, the Supreme Court is allowed to do judicial review. What that means is you pass a law, the law happens to abridge the Constitution, how it is written or how it is intended, depending on the justice, then it can be struck down. However, when the Constitution was written, each side can outweigh the other. So it's like, okay, we put this in here, they get struck down. Well, we're going to codify it anyways. Yeah. Well, you can't. It's against the Constitution. Well, we're not going to listen to you because you're not an elected people. Or at that time, 6 unelected people. Or maybe it's 5. I'm not sure. But anyways, it's really complicated of how it gets to they could be Supreme Court lands. Like, how do 9 unelected people, some I like, Clarence Thomas, how do 9 unelected people get to make a decision and say, like, all right, because we said so, tap, 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 decision's made. It's bullcrap.
But that's the thing is that allows for these people to say it's in violation of the Constitution when what they mean is it's in violation of a Supreme Court ruling.
That right? we like right now.
Exactly. And again, I say this all the time, but that's important, right? When you say this is in violation of the Constitution, you're imagining in your head, the picture that you have in your head is the ink and paper, right? It's the letter of the Constitution, whereas really the Constitution says nothing about this, right? But because it's in violation of some ruling that was made by the Supreme Court, now you can say that it's not constitutional. And I can say, show me the amendment, and they'll be like, well, it's I can't remember, it was the 4th, the 14th, it was the 14th Amendment.
14th and 4th.
Yeah, that they used for that. And it's not there, but because it's in violation of, because again, if I can convince you of the words that we use, right? If I can convince you that in violation of Supreme Court ruling means in violation of the Constitution, that carries a lot more weight, and people are doing that. Drives me nuts that people can do that.
Yeah, well, people don't know the entirety, and the media is not going to be able to explain it to you because they want clickbait, so they're going to keep pushing that narrative.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever.
What happens? Go ahead.
What?
Go ahead.
No, in the order, the judge accused the Republicans had contrived an unprecedented and transparent statutory scheme by leaving the enforcement in the hands of private citizens. Some would say, the AP being included, by the way, they outmaneuvered the stupid dang law. Yeah. And that's what pissed you off. It's like, right, we're not in violation of your made-up law. We created a new one. Well, you can't do that. No, we're tired of getting knocked down. We're just going to do a new one, and it looks like a judge is standing in the way for the Biden or the they administration, despite it not affecting any other state. DOJ has to do something.
This is not how I thought this was going to happen. I thought this was going to happen because we were going to have an abortion performed in Texas, and things were going to operate that way, right? They were going to file suit. That suit was going to get appealed, and it was going to move up that way. I didn't think that this was going to be coming from the Biden administration in order to challenge this in federal court, which brings up another question. What happens if we say no? Right? What happens if Texas looks at the federal court and says, "No, we're not. We're going to keep doing what we're doing"?
That is uncharted territory. I have no clue.
That would be really interesting. That'd be really interesting. Because I mean, that's the thing is, if Texas says, "Listen, no, we're not going to do that," you're going to arrest the state of Texas, right? They say, "Well, the feds can come and enforce the law. Bring them. Yeah, what are you gonna do, right? If I'm Greg Abbott, right? That's what I'm doing. I'm looking at Biden and being like, "Do it. What are you gonna do?" Right? As well, the judge said you can't. Well, I did.
There's a big pile of rocks over there. Go ahead and kick it.
Go ahead and kick rocks. Seriously, I'm curious to see what happens there, right? And so the question here is this: someone commits an abortion in Texas, they get sued. Texas now can say, the Texas courts say, no, we can't do that. We're not doing the 10,000 anymore.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, if it gets knocked down right now, it's you're technically allowed, but a lot of doctors are fearful, thank goodness, because if it goes back in, because Texas has appealed to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, and if it says like, well, until it's decided, we're going back with the law, which happens all the time. It's like, right, until we make a decision, this did pass. You just can't undo a law despite it was democratically passed. So doctors are like, we're not really sure what we can and can't do because we don't want to get retroactively sued, because if it goes back into place and they did all these, well, now I can sue you because you did it, because it allows 4 years of statute of limitations. So 4 years.
Yeah.
What I found very interesting, though, is that it was what are these two articles? I can't remember which one. Some providers have said that Texas clinics are now in danger of closing while neighboring states struggle to keep up with surge of patients who drive hundreds of miles. Other women, they say, are being forced to carry pregnancies to term. Whatever. Yeah. But what I clicked on was, you call them clinics.
Yeah, clinics are doing just fine.
No. If so, why are they in danger of closing if they're just clinics?
Yeah. No, there's a
business was actually just murdering babies, and that was the majority of their business. And now
there's a clinic right by my house. They are doing just fine, right? Because they're still seeing patients. They're still seeing people who are getting sick. They're still doing coronavirus tests. They're still having people come in with injuries. What you're talking about is not a clinic. What you're talking about is an abortion mill, and I am totally okay with those people closing down.
Yeah, right? If you were serving actual women, like the argument always gives, like, well, they help a lot of women. They don't just do abortions. Well, seems like a lot of them do. They wouldn't be this concerned about can't do one certain function.
If they do all these other things, if they do all these other things and they have these other mechanisms of making money, why are we so worried about the abortion? So
yeah, weird how that works.
Yeah, it is strange, but yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with clinics. There's clinics all over the state of Texas, and they're doing just fine.
Yeah, but like I said,
this will go to the abortion ones.
Yeah, this will go to the Fifth Circuit. It is a conservative court. Doesn't mean justices will blindly vote with it. So we'll see how this works.
It didn't. The most conservative of justices come from the Fifth Circuit.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Wouldn't that be most conservative Justice John Roberts, Chief Justice John Roberts?
I'm not sure if he actually came from the Fifth Circuit.
You're not sure?
No. Let me see. Where did Justice John Roberts come from? Before Supreme Court. Let's just see. Oh yeah, he was Court of Appeals in District of Columbia from 2003 to 2005. Yeah,
stand corrected.
So yeah, again, conservative justice. Sure. Let's move on.
Stand corrected. Okay.
Don't get me started on him again.
Not yet. We'll have a whole other segment set away for that. All right. So let's talk about another Texas bill. Let's talk about another Texas bill. This is number 3. 3 hots. This next Texas bill is not necessarily about abortion, but it is kind of centered in that gender area. We're going to be talking about women of a different kind, and by that I mean women that are not
women.
Yeah, we're talking about House Bill 25, which just recently got out of committee. And this is another thing that's confusing. I thought we were done. I thought the Texas session was done.
Redistricting session. They snuck in another special session. Yes, I'm not happy about it.
It's a lot of special sessions that are happening, man.
Governor Abbott is just letting it happen.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But we got House Bill 25 out of committee so that it's more likely to be put on the floor for our vote. House Bill 25, why don't you go ahead and explain what that is, James?
Well, that is forcing children who identify as trans to play on the sport of their same biology. So if you're a boy who likes to dress up as a girl and say you're a girl, you can't play with the girls. You have to play with the boys because you're a boy.
Yep. Seems reasonable. Cool, we good? We're done?
Nope. Of course they don't like it.
Why don't you like? I don't understand why we don't like science. I don't understand why we don't like basic biology.
In this Texas Tribune article, they mentioned at one point medical experts have debunked that transgender girls have a have an advantage with one single study. It's a pretty skewed study.
Wait a minute. What study? What study says that there's no advantage if you're a boy competing with girls?
The one they found and made sure to back up what they want. And I even kind of Googled it again, just kind of make sure like different things. And even the Connecticut issue, which if you don't know, back in 2019 and 2018, there were these boys who said they were girls and they started just whooping all the girls in track. And the judge even up there kind of threw it out. So there's no indication. It's like, bro, all these records just got broken by dudes who were, if you put them next to the actual boys, they wouldn't even be on the same first 9 runners. They wouldn't even be there. But they're playing with girls. Yeah.
And I was a Division II.
This is a tangent. Here's a weird thing. How come it only goes one way? It only goes one way. Boys pretending to be girls. It never goes girls pretending to be boys. And they just want to start competing with the boys. You know why? Because they wouldn't have a chance.
Yeah. Well, they did have.
It goes one single way, and it's just like, you kidding me?
There was the case. There was the case of that wrestler. I don't know if you remember this. There was a wrestler who was a girl. She was a girl that was transitioning into be a boy, and she wanted to compete with the boys, but she couldn't, and she was on testosterone, and she whooped up on the girl. She whooped up on the girls also, and she says, "I want to compete with the boys, but y'all won't let me." So there was that one case. There was that one case.
One.
And you got to ask yourself, what do you do about this kind of stuff, right? What do you do about
UFC fighters cracking skulls, and we're going to talk about this one girl wanting to wrestle.
But here's the thing, though, and there's this idea of, oh, well, testosterone doesn't provide any specific advantage. Testosterone by itself, no, but you know what does? Male puberty, right? If I am so many percent bigger than my wife because I've grown up and undergone a male puberty. Even if I stop, right? Even if I stop taking testosterone, if I get my testosterone levels down to a level of estrogen that's comparable to hers, I'm still way bigger than she is, right?
Yeah.
I'm still
Shoulders, biceps,
exactly.
everything.
Right. I've still got a ton of mass, if nothing else. Right. You're talking about combat sports. I like I liked what Joe Rogan said. He says you can't estrogen your way out of this. Right.
No.
It's like you just have I've got bigger hands. I've got a bigger body. Right. I've got stronger bones. I've got all sorts of different advantages that estrogen doesn't take away.
He's not taller. Dude's like 5'3".
Who?
Rogan.
Oh, Rogan? Yeah, Rogan's not very big. Rogan's
he can whoop my tail.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'd like to see you mess. I'd like to see you tell him, "Oh, you're really short, buddy."
I will behind the plexiglass that he can't get me to.
The plexiglass ain't gonna save you. The point here is that there's a clear problem with girls coming in and train or boys coming in and training with the girls, right? And you're right, we don't see it going the other way, right? We don't see a ton of girls wanting to go compete with boys. And if we did, that would be a problem because then I'm sorry, but the girl who thinks she's a boy is probably going to get her butt kicked, right? Especially if you're talking about contact sports, right? If you're talking about football or something like that, like a trans man, a woman who thinks they're a man wants to be on the football team.
If I was back in high school, I wasn't the greatest basketball player, but if I could play with the women, it's like, oh, I'm going to clean up. Here we go. They may be faster than me, but by the time you get to the goalpost, stop. I
was a Division II swimmer when I was in college, and I was faster than just about any girl. But I mean, I was just a guy. That's the thing, is that you can't, and that's one of those things when you're talking about things like track and swimming and stuff like that. You can just look at the records, look at the record boards. They're not even close. Not even a little bit close, right?
No. Well, speaking of records, on the public record, they had public testimonies that saw a bunch of trans parents and trans kids making comments. Come on.
First of all, why are we allowing trans kids? This is the next step in this, right? Why are we allowing trans kids in Texas?
Did they decide it? Did really? Because what I've been under the interpretation of, your prefrontal cortex doesn't develop certain time. That's how we can make the justification for, let's just say, alcohol, tobacco,
impressionable, yeah,
or the guns we just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a reason to have an age limit, then how do they know? Like, come on, did you make a decision at age 13? Like, all right, based on my 13-year-old brain, I'm gonna forever do this. No,
I know, yeah, I know that I'm a girl. It's like, gosh, man, when I was 13, I thought I was a dinosaur.
I thought I'd be married to Shania Twain or something. Like, come on.
You can identify as married to Shania Twain. Your wife won't like it very much, but you could.
I like my wife more, so.
That's true. Here's the thing, man. These sorts of issues are just cut and dry. And I understand that there's some difficulty that comes in certain situations, right? But at the end of the day, you're going to have to say, listen, and I understand that at the end of high school, you're kind of an adult, I mean, it's the very end of high school.
You think you are.
You think you're an adult, right? But I mean, if you get to the point where you're 16 and you're going to make this decision because you're a guy and you think you're a girl, that's gonna have to come with some consequences, right? And to be honest, I think that kind of works with the decision that you're making, because the decision that you're making has consequences. It has eternal consequences, and if it's important,
this is written by Abigail Schreier in When Harry Becomes Sally, and yet that book got thrown out because how dare you show that people did not like their decision that after transition? Yeah,
Schreier didn't write that. Schreier wrote.
I thought she wrote
Irreversible Damage.
Oh, okay.
She wrote a different. There's a different author. Same theme, right? But it's a different author. The situation here is this: is that what I'm going to say is, if you believe at 16 years old that you are a female, right? You're a male and you think you're a woman. If you have enough, you should have enough conviction in that decision to say, I'm not going to do sports anymore. Right? The policy should be, you can, if you want to transition, that's between you, your doctor, and your parents or whatever, right? I don't think that's the case, but if that's where we are, that's where we are, right? I wouldn't like that. I would like to say that anyone under the age of 18 can't even make a decision like that. But let's say that you can, okay?
think in Texas we have something on the books that say you can't do puberty blockers or any kind of stuff like that until you're 18.
Okay,
so
that's
we're at least
that's
in the right
great.
direction.
That's fantastic. But let's assume for the sake of argument that doesn't exist, that you can make this decision when you're 16, 17 years old. If you're that adamant about it, then giving up your sports should be something you're willing to do, right? Because you're willing to give up certain body parts, right? You're willing to give up certain social norms. You're probably willing to give up ever having children again. But it's the sports. We're gonna get hung up on the sports.
Yeah, that's the thing when it comes to sports. It's like if you want to be a such and such athlete and be a D1, let's say you want to be a D1 football player, basketball player, whatever. Well, what are you gonna do to get there? Well, I'm gonna hang out with my friends and play video games. Like, well, you can't do that. You gotta start training. Like you waking up early, someone's waking up earlier than you. Someone's running faster than you. Someone's hitting harder than you. You gotta keep doing these things. And people don't realize that. It's like, have you ever seen a D1 college, or I mean, even for you played D2, but I'm sure your schedule, you didn't decide that.
No.
Most of it was decided for you. Why?
Yep.
If you want to compete here, here's what our specific training program has shown can make your trajectory up. Mm-hmm. And if you don't want to follow that, you don't want to be on the team.
Yeah. And that's where I'd like to see us go. Obviously, I would like to see us go to a place where we're saying, listen, you can't make these sorts of decisions. If you can't consent to sex, this is why we have statutory laws, right? This is why we have laws of consent like that. There's an age of consent. If you can't consent to sex, you certainly can't consent to change your sex. So I think we should take that away altogether. But if we're not going to do that, then at least you need to say, hey, listen, if you're convinced that you're a woman, prove it. You're going to have to give up your sports in order to do it. But if it's, again, I think there's some ulterior motive if you're saying, no. It's the sports is a big part of this, right? I just don't think that's the case. And there's not enough transgender people out there to have transgender leagues. So until we can figure out some sort of compromise like that, you're just going to have to shut it down, man.
Or just say it's a fad, like we've known it's a fad, and it'll dwindle off.
It is a fad. It is a fad. And that's the thing is these kids, these used to be the emo kids when you and I were in high school, right? This is just a different fad. The problem is that we've got politics that is taking what is essentially a child's emotional fad and they're turning it into actual policy, right? Which is why we have to combat that at the state level, right? I really want to do an episode on the importance of federalism because this is really where the battle is going to be for the next little bit, is that we're going to have national policy and then we need to have state policy that combats that and says, no, you can do that. Yeah, you can do that if you want to, but you can't do that here. That needs to be Texas's philosophy for the remainder of its existence. Because if you say, well, hey, we're going to allow debauchery around the rest of the country, Texas has to be the one that stands in the gap and says, no, not today. We're going to be a bulwark against the storm. We are going to be the lights in the darkness. We are the stars at night, and we are big and bright. We'll see you next week, guys.
Okay, update. Because after we recorded our show, the Fifth Circuit actually did do something over the weekend. And by the time this video is out, may do something else. But the current stop on abortion is unstopped. Yeah, the U.S. has a chance to actually answer this appeal to see a more permanent action, but until then, until Tuesday, by the end of day, abortion is back to being basically illegal in Texas. Congrats! We'll see how this plays out.